I get to introduce people all day. It's really fun. Donna Barbash, retired Major General from the U.S. Army Reserve. Her biography is in the program, but I just want to point out a few things. Donna Barbash is a nurse with numerous postgraduate degrees in the medical field. But she served as a two-star general in basically a position that mostly combat arms officers usually serve in. She was the director of chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear program integration in the Office of the Secretary of Defense. And the reason is that a combat arms officer serves there is we usually don't have enough chemical officers with 2 stars. So they said, let's get a nurse. But Donna had unique qualifications. She's intense. She does her homework. And a medical background is pretty close. So, where's Donna Barbash? Oh, there you are. I was looking at the uniform. All those brass had me going. Welcome.
Well, good morning. I want to thank you for the introduction, and it's a pleasure to be here again this year with the Army Women's Foundation, talking about Army women in transition. And as we looked at what we were going to do this year, we sort of thought, well, we're transitioning, and what is transitioning all about? It's about change. Our lives are changing, and we can take command of that future, or we can let it happen to us. And we thought it was particularly challenging to think about how we can help other Army women manage this change. Like any strategic planning, organizations identify what it is they need to be doing for the next 5, 8, 10 years, hopefully even longer. But oftentimes we don't do that for ourselves in our positions. We used to have careers for life, and many people joined the military thinking that they were going to retire from the military. But life does change, our needs change, the military changes. So now we have lifted the combat exclusion that may or may not impact your life. There's the end of the combat in the Middle East. That may change your life. It may change your opportunities, and it may open opportunities for you. One thing that doesn't change is the military's focus on education. And I think what we've decided is if we can take that education and apply it not only to ourselves in our military career, but in our civilian careers, we can make a big difference, not only to ourselves, but to the world. So our first panel is focused on the choice is yours, or is it? Do we really have a choice? Well, of course, the answer is always yes, but sometimes some of those choices come up as challenges. So we put together a wonderful panel this morning. I'm going to briefly introduce them. Their bios are in your program as well. But just to tell you a little bit about who we have here, we have Captain Elise Haskell. She's a reservist and manages her career with Walmart at the same time, one of those twice a citizen individuals. She's a 2004 graduate of the Military Academy at West Point. She was on active duty until 2008, where as she was transitioning from active service to reserve service, she acquired a position with Walmart. She's going to share a little bit of her insights as that happened. Our next panelist is Colonel Jean Whalen, an Army Nurse Corps officer who retired in 2013 and continues to serve as the Director of Warrior Transition Office for the Northern Regional Medical Command. And our third panelist is Chief Warrant Officer 5, Phyllis Wilson. Phyllis is the Command Chief Warrant Officer for the Army Reserve. She's been mobilized twice to Iraq. So without further ado, I'd like to pass this on and get started with our panel. The choice is yours, or is it? Captain Elise?
Good morning, everyone. I want to say a big thank you, Ms. Donna and the crew, for selecting me for this opportunity. I definitely am excited to share my story and just give a little insight on this wonderful symposium. Part of the focus for the symposium is focusing on your future and making decisions about where you want to be. I will say, growing up with a single mother with 4 girls, that is something she always shared with us. You do have a choice, but that choice needs to be planned. It needs to be organized, and you can't be afraid to make that choice. Something that always stuck with me as I grew up was if there was something that I wanted to do, my mom was going to be my #1 supporter, despite how the maternal instinct of I don't want my child to join the military, I don't want my child to leave home. Those things did not hinder her from allowing me to pursue my dreams. So that is something that really helped shape my career and really helped for me to shape my focuses as I transitioned from active duty Army into the reserves and with Walmart. As I transitioned into the military, I experienced a lot of challenges where it was just adjusting to the lifestyle, adjusting to the gender mix, adjusting to having to make tough decisions without that guidance that most people receive in the civilian world. So it was very important to focus on partnering with your peers, your mentors, and other leadership that could help me to frame the most effective decisions for myself. Something that struck me as I was reading about the Army Women's Foundation was how critical it's been to make sure that women are given a platform. And I believe that that platform is not something that's just going to be handed to anyone, no matter what their gender is. However, it has to be seized. You have to have the perfect timing, and you have to make sure that in your decision-making, whether it's with your career or your personal life, you have to make sure that you do what's going to be best for you and realize that there was someone before you that fought for that same opportunity, and there's going to be someone that has to come after you. So bringing up mentors, and developing young leaders is something that I've always focused on. And as I transitioned into Walmart, I was able to apply everything that I learned in the military to my day-to-day operations. Working for Walmart turned out to be one of the best decisions that I could make. It was very in line with what I had learned from the military, how my leadership could be applied to the day-to-day operations, and how I could really make an impact on people who may not have been given a chance in life. You don't realize until you leave the military and transition into the civilian sector how many people do not have that strong leader or that person that they can look to. And as a female in that organization, that was something that I have and continue to take pride in, because there are young employees, young leaders within my store and within other stores that I interact with that need that guidance. So something that I want to just focus on or leave you all with as a focus is mentorship and development. Critical in the civilian sector as well as in the military sector. The leadership that I've been fortunate to deal with and to interact with has really given me an opportunity to grow and develop my skills. So I want to say again, close with saying thank you for the opportunity, and to make sure that everyone realizes that as a woman, we can make that change. We can make that impact. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Captain Hackstall. Very insightful. Good information here. Next, we're going to hear from Colonel Jean Whelan.
Hi, good morning. I'm Colonel Jean Whelan. I'm a member of the United States Army Reserve with nearly 29 years of service, and I just want to make a slight correction. I haven't retired yet. Very soon, that would be another choice to make. During the last 8 years, I was a reservist who was mobilized, and the last 8 years, I was serving the Warrior Care and Transition Program due to my With my leadership skills and nursing skills, I was handpicked to start up a community-based warrior transition unit down in Virginia Beach, and then eventually, after 8 years, I was moved here to up north to lead the Warrior Transition Office for the Northern Regional Medical Command. So I'll tell you a little bit of a story and how that came about. I was employed by corporate America, and I received a note to say, okay, you're being mobilized to start up a program. Of course, you know, we don't have a choice at that time. When Uncle Sam sends you a notice, you have 30 days to report. So that was 8 years ago. And I'm not regretting any moment or any minute of that. That has just really built up my character. So here's my story. I decided to return to reserve status, and this just occurred, and Peggy and I have been talking about this since November, December. At that time, I was still on active duty. And then the next time she called me, I said, guess what? I just transitioned. So I really have something to tell you guys and share with you how that transition went from military to civilian. I was a little bit intimidated, but I can share with you it was seamless. So although the choice was mine, the decision did not come easy. Some of the questions I asked myself were, how would I transition from wearing the uniform every day to civilian clothes? That is a challenge. After 8 years, anything in my closet either didn't fit or no longer in fashion. More seriously, how will I successfully transition to a civilian life and join the civilian workforce? I know firsthand I'm not alone, as I believe many women face this dilemma every day. My choices were either to stay in another year to complete my 30 years or return to reserve status and go back to being a civilian. I had several questions for myself. Am I ready to join the civilian force, corporate America? Am I prepared to make the transition? Am I marketable? Do I still have my skills that I had 8 years ago? Can I transfer my military skills to corporate America? And most importantly, can I get a job? With a nursing degree and a master's degree in healthcare administration, along with my military experience and leadership, I felt I had a solid foundation. And so here it goes. Based on both personal and professional reasons, I decided it was time to return to civilian life. I put my notice and I said, can I please be relieved from active duty and go back to my reserve status? Which most folks says, why would you want to do that? You have 1 more year and you can have 30 years. The choice is always, it's an individual choice. Based on my personal and professional, I decided it was time. You just know in your heart when you're passionate and you wake up one day, the time is now. And so I started going to Monster.com, Careers Builders, LinkedIn. I friended so many friends that I got to know over the last 30 years of my military. And started that conversation. How did they do it? What do you do? I was a little bit intimidated since I was really out of practice. In the military, you don't really market yourself. You build up your reputation from your performance, past performance. They promote you because you have your potential. In the civilian life, in the corporate America, they promote you because of what you perform in the past. So it's a little bit of a shift in the mindset there. So there goes the intimidation. So I decided to capitalize on my experience and seek out a job with government agencies. I says, why don't I just stick with what I know? I know how to deal with military folks, ex-military, and a lot of government agencies, opportunities there for me. Having a military background and having that additional 5 points preference hiring really helped out. Thank you, VA. That gave me a little bit of an advantage. I was fortunate enough to compete and be selected to serve as a director of Warrior Transition Office for Northern Regional Medical Command, overseeing the warrior care and transition in our region. And as you probably saw in my bio, it's the same position I held when I was wearing the uniform. So my lucky stars really lined up. Once I began my transition, I attended the Transition Assistance Program, TAP, as required, as General Brumbert mentioned this morning. It's now mandatory for all soldiers to attend the TAP training and the ACAP. But I did brag, but I have a job. It doesn't matter. So the VA really requires for you, every soldier who's transitioning from military to civilian, to attend the TAP training and the ACAP, which is the alumni transition assistance program for the Army career, and it was a 1 week long of training. They give you employment assistance, resume writing, and how do you do networking. Although I already secured a job, they really make sure that you still have the skills. And so with that, I really thought to myself, you know, the choices make it easier because the VA's there to hold your hand because no one's left behind. Not not only me, but every soldier in every line, anyone that comes through that door, whether you have a job or not, gets that opportunity to market yourself, to build up your skills, and to have a resume, and to have a employment opportunity outside the military.
Colonel Whalen, we're going to have to.
And that's all I can say, since I just want to say thank you for being here and for the invitation. I just would like to say thank you to the VA for all the services they provided me, and thank you to my employer, who is the Northern Regional Medical Command, for hiring me. So thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Whalen. Another great story about an outstanding military background that provides a good foundation for the transition to the future. Thank you again. Our next speaker, Chief Phyllis Wilson, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to speak with you today. As a professional soldier, my own life and career have been profoundly influenced by ongoing changes and opportunities for women in the military. I am the Command Chief Warrant Officer of the United States Army Reserve, a force of 205,000 soldiers, 12,500 civilians, and their families. I represent the Commanding General on matters pertaining to training and education, career management, leader development, and warrior transition issues for all warrant officers in the Army Reserve. I'm also responsible for coordinating policy and integrating statutory changes to support the advancement of initiatives for the warrant officer cohort across all three components of the Army: the active component, the National Guard, and the Army Reserve. I am the 5th Command Chief Warrant Officer of the Army Reserve and the first woman to hold this position. A transition of society and institutional views made this possible, as I was considered for the position based upon my credentials, not my gender. When I made the decision to join the Army, it was a much different time. A female soldier's career path was less assured. Many female soldiers had to choose between their career or a family. Today, the demands of a female soldier's professional and private life can be reconciled to the advance of both. I have been very fortunate in realizing the benefits that have accrued to women in the military, and I am proud to have contributed to our national defense. As a woman and professional soldier, my own life and career have been influenced by the changes in the roles and opportunities for women in the military. I entered the Army as an active duty private in 1981. During more than 30 years of active and reserve service in the field of military intelligence, I have served at all echelons and witnessed the increased opportunities for women in the military. These changes have yielded benefits to the military as a whole, as it gained new insight and perspective in fields previously unavailable to women. The men and women whose careers I now oversee serve in almost every military specialty at every level of command, and they do so with distinction. With additional career fields in combat arms currently being evaluated for female participation, all branches of service will benefit from the diversity of talent upon which they will be able to draw. I made the choice to move from active duty to the Army Reserve, and this change facilitated my ability to raise a family while maintaining my identity as a soldier. We know a soldier cannot do their job successfully without the support of the Army, their community, and their family. Like so many soldiers, my family have been incredibly supportive and are often the unsung heroes, enduring long separations while their loved ones are deployed. My performance of duty as a soldier has not impeded the conduct of my life as a woman. I am married to a retired Special Forces warrant officer, and together we have 8 children. 3 of our sons are serving on active duty, and they are all combat veterans. I'm a little proud. I believe that thanks to changes in policy concerning the roles of women in the military, the conduct of my life as a woman has also not impeded my career as a soldier. The choice is yours, or is it? It would be less than forthright if I sat here and said I had not had to make some very tough decisions along the way, but ultimately the choice was mine. And as in all walks of life, men and women make tough choices, placing their family or their organizations ahead of their own self-interest. Would I change some of my life choices? Of course I would, in hindsight. I also must tell you that I'm quite pleased with how everything has turned out. Life isn't ever as perfectly planned as one might wish. I can confidently recommend military service to every man and to every woman who wishes to serve their country. Changes are on the horizon for women in the military. Those who exhibit the talent, determination, and drive will only be limited by their own enthusiasm. I thank you for your time and attention.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed the comments from our panelists. I think they've brought some significant insight into what their choices were. I'm really pleased to see that we're doing a very good job of balancing active component, reserve component, service, and managing civilian careers as well. You know, it wasn't that long ago that we didn't have a very good transitioning program. So it's really heartwarming for me to hear these stories. When I transitioned from active duty to reserve was back in the good old days, and it happened to be just one individual who said to me, "Don't let them make you resign your commission." I had no idea. I had no career manager. She was another nurse who said to me that she had stayed in the reserve and it worked for her. She went back on active duty. I had nobody tell me that except that one individual, and if I could remember her name or find her, I would thank her because it really made a difference to my life. So very good. We have a few minutes now for questions and answers from the audience. Anybody out there like to start off with the question? Now that we've changed our position in the military from excluding women from combat to now opening all those positions, in my experience, as we talked about these issues for many, many years, I remember being on a commission back in 1995 to say, should we do that? And why haven't we? 1995. And we'd been talking about it for years, but now it's open. So the question becomes, there's a lot of people out there who don't want to see their daughters in combat, their sisters, themselves, except we were already there. We just weren't allowed to do some of those jobs. How do you believe, as an individual, that choice might have changed your position back when you were a lieutenant or a junior enlisted person? How would that have changed your position in the military? Any comments? Go ahead.
Well, I'll say that I think the world wasn't ready to hear that. I think as society has changed and things have evolved, America and society has just become more prepared for changes. As with any situation, people are resistant to change. And I think now that society is ready to allow women into that arena and have realized that there have been many that have been extremely close to being there already. So now that we've seen, the world has seen the woman's role in a deployment, and to see how a woman reacts to deployment, I think it is going to be something that our society is more prepared for, and something that we will be more prepared to hear. No one is prepared for their child, period, or their sibling, loved one to go into combat. So I think that this is just the next step in transitioning in our world, in our society.
I wouldn't change the word. I would still join, and if I'm the best qualified for the job, I'll be the first one to join in. I think we are more accepting. We are training our soldiers to have more tolerance with each other and coexist, whether it's regardless of what other gender is. So I support soldiering skills. It's equal opportunity, and we select the best qualified for the position. So I wholeheartedly support it. And had it happened 20 years ago, it wouldn't change my track. I'd still be here today. Thank you.
It would not have changed my choice as far as what my career field was. I was very, my father was raised Amish and spoke Pennsylvania Dutch. And so when I joined, I became an Army linguist, went to DLI, became a German voice intercept operator, and was assigned in Germany. And I will tell you, while they say even back then, you know, there were no women in combat, when we were deployed out with 3rd Armored Division on our exercises, we sat on hilltops doing voice collection into East Germany. And we knew that if those tanks ever rolled through, I was going to be on the wrong side of what then was a flot, which we don't even have anymore. Yeah. So we understood that, we trained hard, and we were prepared. Ready to do it? Absolutely. And I think that the basis is, as long as any individual is absolutely ready to do what is required in that career field, everybody should have access to it. But some of those career fields are very physically strenuous. Then when I joined, I weighed 104 pounds. I would have been hard-pressed to hang with a guy that could ruck 10, 15 kilometers with a heavy sack on his back, engage in combat, and turn around and come back. Maybe I wasn't the right person for it, but I would never say that another woman should not deserve the right to make that effort. If she's qualified, she should be able to do it.
Thank you. We have a question down front.
Several years ago, we did a study with George Mason University, and thank you, Steve Fuller, and your group. And it was on the socioeconomic impact of service. We wanted to see if women who served fared better than vis-a-vis their civilian counterparts. And the first question that we asked was, why did you join the Army? It was Army-focused, Army-specific. And every response, I shouldn't say every response, about 85 or 87% of the respondents said, to serve my country. That was the #1 reason. And we thought that we would get simple, short answers, yes, no, you know, A, B, C, or D. Well, we came back with responses that were volumes, where people wrote in their responses, their opinions, and this was well before women serving in combat, but so many of them said, I'll do whatever I have to do, whatever the mission is, I'm here to serve my country. So I think, you know, this was, what, 5 or 6 years ago, and I think that women who have served, who have joined the Army, have always felt this way, and it will be interesting to see what happens, what combat roles they will fulfill, and we'll be talking about that next year, perhaps. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Peggy, for those comments as well. One further question? Do we have?
Hi, yes.
Last
I'm
question.
Lisa Smith-Rodriguez with Business and Professional Women's Foundation's Joining Forces Mentoring Plus. And I had a specific question for Colonel, Whalen and Chief, I'm sorry, I don't recall your last name. Wilson, thank you. Captain, you've already mentioned mentoring and how that has shaped your career, and it helped all of those that you look under in Walmart as supporters and things of that nature. I would like to know what your experiences are in mentoring, if you're currently mentoring, and who mentored you, how that helped, and anything you can share with that. Thank you.
Within the Army, we have a, if you would say, a program of mentorship. And we do look to ensure that people, we encourage people to find that person that they would like to emulate, go up to them and say, hey, you're exactly the kind of person I would like to model some aspect of my career after. Would you help coach and mentor me along the way? And there is actually almost like a contract that you can build out. There is obviously the formal mentoring program and then the informal. And I look to other people, certainly not that are senior to me necessarily. I've seen some very great young leaders that I have walked up to and asked for them to help coach and mentor me along the way as well. I take very seriously any of the invitations, invites from any of the younger folks asking me to mentor them. I currently only I have 2 people that I am assigned, that I've accepted to mentor, because I feel that I would be unable to do justice to them if I took on more than that. So there's a couple of ladies that have certainly mentored me along the way, both civilian and military, and I will tell you that without them to sort of put their coat down over that mud puddle for me, I'm not sure that I'd be sitting here today.
And from my experience, I was mentored along the way since I joined when I was a first lieutenant. It's not that I was assigned a mentor. You seek out the mentor that you, like Chief said, is that you want to emulate. At that young officer, you looked up to say, who I want to be in 10 to 15 years. You really want to be a general officer, or do you just really want to be command? So I thrive on the informal mentoring. I did the selecting myself. And also what's really important in succeeding is networking. Network, 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 and go outside the box. My background is nursing, but I have more friends outside the nursing arena. So go outside the box and find a common ground, whoever you first meet today, and start from there. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Very good comments. Mentoring and sponsorship are important issues that we have to discuss, and we'll be discussing a little bit more of that in our next panel. Our panel will be back up here for, excuse me, for our final questioning and answering session at the end of the next panel. So please join me in thanking our panelists for this insightful discussion.